There was a napkin in my coat pocket, still folded, still warm from the press of my hand hours earlier. It had her lipstick on it, not from a kiss, from a wipe. She dabbed the corner of her mouth after laughing at something he said, then tossed the napkin toward the table, missing it. I picked it up without thinking. Reflex, maybe. Politeness, maybe. Pathetic, definitely. I stood near the sculpture display, pretending to read the placard about tension in curved spaces, but really, I was watching her reflection in the glass, watching how close she stood to him, how her fingers rested lightly on the rim of her wine glass, the same nervous tick she used on our second anniversary dinner, the same one she had when she lied about being held late at work. I didn't plan to come. She said it was a small office gathering. Nothing fancy. I only knew the gallery name because I saw the email preview flash on her iPad the night before. She never deletes messages anymore. She just hides them in folders named after months. I stood across the room and waited for her to notice me. She never did. Or worse, she did and chose not to. They were laughing. Not just chuckles. Deep laughs. The kind that makes shoulders move. The kind we used to share before the air between us filled with silence and excuses. He touched her arm. She didn't flinch. And that's when I finally understood. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't spontaneous. This was familiar. Practiced. I could have made a scene. I could have walked up and said, "Is this your boss or your new boyfriend?" I could have spilled the wine glass I wasn't holding. I could have told her the password to her own phone and asked why his name was saved under a fake pizza place. Instead, I walked to the exit. No one noticed. I passed the valet. Kept walking. Took a bus that smelled like damp wool and burnt brakes. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. But when I got home, I made the bed on the couch. Left the bedroom untouched. I folded my coat. Removed the napkin. And set it on her pillow. Just the napkin. And this morning, when I woke up, the pillow was soaked. And she was standing in the hallway, holding the napkin like it was a confession. Crying. She didn't speak right away. She stood in the hallway, barefoot, wearing the same dress from the night before, the one with the sheer sleeves and that subtle shimmer that always made people compliment her. Her makeup was smeared just slightly at the corners of her eyes. Not ruined, but undone, like the night had ended abruptly for her in a way she hadn't anticipated. She clutched the napkin in both hands, tight enough to crinkle it, but not tear it. Like she still didn't know what it meant to me, or maybe she knew exactly what it meant and couldn't bring herself to admit it. I didn't move from the couch. I'd been awake for hours, listening to the fridge hum and the occasional crack of the wooden floors upstairs. I knew when she came in. Heard her slip off her heels at the door. Heard her pause outside our bedroom before walking in alone. I imagined her noticing the absence of me, the still-made side of the bed, and the echo of my silence. She finally spoke. "I didn't see you there." It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even a question. It was a statement designed to buy her time, as if acknowledging my presence retroactively might erase what I saw. I looked at her then, not with anger, but with something heavier. Disappointment doesn't cover it. Betrayal is too dramatic for how numb I felt. It was more like watching someone drop a priceless vase and then pretend it wasn't valuable. "I know," I said. She stepped closer, but I didn't invite her in. The couch felt like neutral ground, and I wasn't ready to surrender it. "Not yet." "He was drunk," she added, like that explained anything. "So were you," I replied, my voice calm, almost too calm. She looked down at the napkin again, as if it might tell her what to say next. I could tell she hadn't prepared for this version of me. She expected rage, accusations, a dramatic scene, but instead I'd left. Quietly, decisively, and she didn't know how to fight with a ghost. "I didn't do anything," she whispered. I could have asked her to define anything. I could have listed what I saw, the arm around her waist, the fingers on her back, the way she tilted her head toward him when he spoke, the laugh that didn't belong to the woman I married. But I didn't, because the worst part wasn't the touch. It was how comfortable it all looked. "I didn't leave because of what you did," I said after a long silence. "I left because of how easy it was for you." She sat down in the chair across from me like a student waiting for detention. No words, just silence stretching between us, heavy and wide. I thought about every lie she didn't say, and every truth I didn't want to hear. That morning, I didn't demand answers. I didn't make ultimatums. I just stood, walked upstairs, and shut the door behind me. I needed space. I needed time. But what I didn't know was that she had already deleted all her messages before she walked through that door. All the calls, the photos, the calendar entries, gone. And it made one thing painfully clear. This wasn't her mistake. It was her plan. It's strange how quickly you start noticing things once your mind's no longer clouded by comfort. You go from defending your partner in arguments they don't even know you're having, to dissecting every glance, every pause, every pixel of their behavior. I hadn't planned to snoop. That wasn't who I was. At least, not until I sat alone in our bedroom that morning, staring at the neatly placed phone charger on her nightstand and wondering if I was the only one who ever used it lately. Maribel didn't come up to talk. I could hear her downstairs, pacing slowly, quietly. Not like someone thinking, but like someone calculating. She knew I wouldn't explode. She was counting on that. My silence had always been her safest weapon. By noon, she brought me tea. Ginger chamomile. The kind she makes when she wants to soften the edges of her guilt. She didn't say a word, just placed it on the nightstand and left. I didn't touch it. That's when I made the decision. I know how it sounds. Childish. Sneaky. Wrong. But I needed to know the truth, not the curated version, not the careful half-truths wrapped in soft tones. The truth. So I picked up her iPad. She always used it to stream cooking videos in bed while ignoring my questions about how her day went. She never logged out of anything on it. That was her mistake. Everything was wiped, just like I expected. iMessage, clean. Calendar, blank. Email, filtered so that anything from the office, from Sam, from anyone she didn't want me to see, went straight into obscure folders named Archive B and tax stuff. But she didn't expect me to know how to check notifications history. And there it was. A name I hadn't seen in weeks. Anders. Just a banner. A short one. Not from that night, but the night before. Anders. With a silver dress. You know what it does to me. I stared at the screen like it had slapped me across the face. This wasn't about Sam. This was someone else entirely. I had no idea who Anders was. I'd never heard her mention the name. Not once in 9 years of marriage. No friends named Anders. No colleagues. No family. Nothing. I put the iPad down, slowly, carefully, like it might explode. I sat on the edge of the bed for what felt like hours, my hands clenched between my knees, 1,000 questions screaming in my head, but louder than any of them was one clear realization. The man at the party wasn't the threat. He was just the surface. There was someone deeper. Hidden. Someone she wanted to keep hidden. And she almost succeeded. When she came upstairs to check on me later, I didn't mention the message. Not yet. I told her I needed time. Told her I wasn't sure how I felt. She nodded, like she expected that, but there was a flicker of relief in her eyes. She thought she was off the hook, but I had already made up my mind. I was going to find Anders. And when I did, I wasn't going to shout. I was going to let the truth ruin her, the same way she had quietly ruined me. It's remarkable what people leave behind when they think they've erased everything. They forget that technology remembers differently, that shadows of messages linger in places not even apps fully scrub. I wasn't a tech genius, not even close, but I had time, and time was something I had learned to stretch. Fixing clocks teaches you that. You learn patience, precision. You learn that even when something seems still, something inside is ticking, quietly shifting toward collapse. For 2 nights, I didn't confront her. I watched instead. The way she moved around the house like she was performing. Polite, restrained, overly cautious. She cooked a meal I hadn't seen on our table in 2 years. She asked if I wanted to watch our show, the one she never had time for. She offered to do the laundry. Not once did she ask what I was thinking. Not once did she mention the napkin, or the man, or that party. It was like she was trying to convince me nothing had happened, as if enough kindness could erase betrayal. But I was already gone. Emotionally, at least. I was sleeping in our bed again, yes, but only because I wanted access to her nightstand. The next morning, after she left for work, I started digging deeper. Not just her iPad, but her old laptop, the one buried in the hallway closet inside a tote bag filled with outdated chargers and expired makeup kits. I charged it. Waited. The screen flickered to life with a startup chime that felt far too cheerful for what I was about to uncover. There was nothing on the desktop. Not a single file. But I wasn't looking for files. I opened her notes app. Most were blank. Grocery lists. Work reminders. One line that just said, June 17th, can't forget. It was the only one not updated recently. I almost skipped past it, but something about the vagueness struck me. I opened it, and there it was, written plainly, like it wasn't meant for anyone but herself. Anders, Ridgecrest Inn, 8 p.m. No ring this time. It hit me like a steel pipe to the chest. June 17th. Our anniversary. The same night, I'd planned a surprise dinner she said she had to cancel for an urgent fundraiser meeting. The same night, I waited 2 hours at a reservation I had to beg the maitre d' to hold. She wasn't at a fundraiser. She was at the Ridgecrest Inn. No ring. 8 p.m. With Anders. I didn't move for several minutes. My hand gripped the edge of the desk. My breathing was shallow. It's not just that she cheated. It's how comfortably she had done it. How casually she made space for him in the very life I'd built for her. I thought back to the wine glasses that mysteriously disappeared. The headaches. The showers right after work. The cold detachment. It hadn't been recent. It had been systematic. I could have screamed. I could have punched a wall. But I didn't. Instead, I booked a room at Ridgecrest Inn. Not for revenge. Not yet. For information. Because if she had been there with Anders, she wasn't just careless, she was confident. And that meant someone else had seen them. The next day, I walked into the Ridgecrest lobby like I was just another man chasing a boring weekend escape. The clerk was young, maybe 23, barely interested in my ID. But I had one name and a date, and that's all I needed. I leaned casually on the counter and said, "Hey, weird question. My brother said he stayed here with his girlfriend a few months back. I'm trying to get them a gift card for their anniversary, but I forgot the date. Was there a reservation under the name Anders around mid-June?" The kid shrugged. "No one just named Anders," he said. "But hold on." He clicked away on his screen, then nodded. "We had a room booked under Maribel Anders, June 17th. She'd used his name as hers. She was covering for him. Or worse, she was preparing for something permanent. That night, I went home. She was already there, watching some cooking show in the kitchen, wine in hand, like the past few days hadn't happened. I walked in, kissed her on the head, and smiled. She looked surprised. But she didn't know what I knew. Not yet. Because sometimes, the only thing more powerful than confrontation is patience. Let her think she'd won. Let her relax. Because I was going to dismantle her world, slowly, carefully, and without ever raising my voice. For days, I played the role, smiled in the right places, let her pour me wine, answered her questions with warm, measured tones. I even complimented the new recipe she pretended to try for the first time, despite the fact that I found a printout of it in the trash can, dated 3 weeks earlier. It was theater, and we were both actors. But only one of us knew the play was almost over. I waited for her to slip. That was all I needed. A misstep. One careless move. And it came sooner than I expected. On Thursday night, I pretended to fall asleep on the couch. Not the first time, not suspicious. I made sure the TV was still on, low volume, just enough to make her think I was out. I heard her phone buzz twice. Not the regular text ping, but the deeper chime of a calendar alert. She picked it up quickly, walked into the kitchen, then straight into the laundry room. That was her new hiding place. I waited a full 5 minutes before I rose. Quiet steps. Careful breath. I checked the kitchen counter, and there it was, her laptop, open but asleep. I tapped the spacebar, and the screen lit up. No password prompt, another mistake. Her email was still open, but that wasn't where the alert had come from. I clicked over to her calendar. That's when I saw it. A private event, set to hidden. Labeled with a single emoji, world map. The location? Red Pine Rest Stop, Highway 83, Lot C. Time, Saturday. For 15 p.m. Not exactly subtle, was it? I took a screenshot and sent it to myself. She wouldn't notice. She rarely checked her sent folder. Then I locked the screen and settled back on the couch just seconds before she came back in, humming lightly like she hadn't just made a digital breadcrumb trail for an affair. I stayed home sick from work the next day. Told her I was fighting a stomach thing. She offered to bring me soup after her meetings, but I declined. She left at 8:12 a.m. By 8:45, I was at my desk, printing the screenshot. I stared at it like it was a code. Why a rest stop? Why the map emoji? I looked up the place. It was rural. Empty. One of those forgotten highway pull-offs with vending machines that haven't been stocked in years. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't scenic. It was discreet. And that terrified me more than any 5-star hotel ever could. That night, I asked her what she was doing Saturday. She blinked. "Oh, just errands." Might visit mom. A new lie? A different flavor. I nodded, pretending to believe her. Saturday came. I left the house at 3:20 p.m., drove out to the rest stop early, and parked behind a truck with a broken tail light. Watched the entrance. Waited. At exactly 4:16, her silver SUV pulled into Lot C. She was alone, but she didn't stay that way. 2 minutes later, another car pulled in, a dark gray sedan with tinted windows. I couldn't see the driver, but she could. She got out of her car quickly, walked over to the passenger side of his, and slid in like she'd done it before. No hesitation. I stayed in my car. Watched. 25 minutes passed. Then she stepped out of the sedan, adjusted her coat, smoothed her hair in the reflection of the window. She hugged the driver. But not just a friendly hug. The kind of hug where your head tilts toward there's like gravity itself wants to keep you together longer. Then she drove away. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. I already had his plate number. Back home, I ran it through a site I'd used once to track down a vintage clock seller who'd scammed me on eBay. It gave me a name. Eric Anders. Not Anders, as in a last name. That was his first name. The name she saved him under. Reversed. Obscured. Hidden. But the worst part? He wasn't single. He had a wife. A family. A business. And a secret that now intertwined with mine. Maribel hadn't just betrayed me. She had built an entire second life around it. And the walls were starting to crack. I wasn't going to confront her yet. I wasn't going to scream or accuse. I was going to take everything she'd built out of lies and dismantle it in silence. When people think of revenge, they imagine something loud, a confrontation in public, a dramatic breakup, things thrown, voices raised. But I've learned that the most unsettling kind of revenge is the one that feels like nothing at all. Like a draft of cold air slipping through a closed window. You can't see it, but suddenly everything is freezing, and you don't know why. Sunday morning came like any other. She made coffee, read the paper, asked if I wanted to go to the farmer's market with her. I said no, citing a headache. She kissed my forehead and left. It took her 13 minutes to pull out of the driveway and head south. I drove north, straight to her mother's house. It was a risk, sure, but I knew one thing about Maribel. She never lied to her mom. She just omitted. Carefully. Strategically. Their relationship was built on a kind of unspoken trust. And if I showed up on her doorstep unannounced, looking like the confused, wounded husband who just needed a little clarity, I knew I could pry open a crack without even asking a direct question. Her mom, Cynthia, opened the door in slippers and a faded floral robe. Her face lit up with confusion and concern. "Harlan, honey, is everything okay?" I gave her a hesitant smile and a tired shrug. "I thought Belle might be here. She said she was stopping by today." Cynthia's brow furrowed. "No, I haven't seen her in over a week. She hasn't called. I figured she was just busy with work." And there it was. I nodded slowly, carefully folding disappointment into my expression like I wasn't shocked. Maybe I misunderstood. I've had this weird feeling lately. Cynthia stepped aside immediately. "Come in. Sit. Talk to me." I didn't say much more. I didn't accuse. I didn't plant lies. I let her do the planting. A few choice silences. A glance at my hands. A few, I'm probably overthinking it, lines. Within 15 minutes, her mother was telling me how distant Maribel had been lately. How she missed holidays. How she never returned texts. How something felt different. I didn't need to ask for her help. She was already starting to worry. That night, when Maribel got home, I was making dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and roasted vegetables. She walked in humming, holding 2 grocery bags and a bottle of wine she said she just felt like picking up. I asked about her visit with her mom. She didn't even pause. "She's fine," she said. "Tired." I didn't stay long. She sat across from me and smiled like the truth wasn't quietly detonating beneath her chair. The next morning, I mailed an envelope to her office. No name. No return address. Just one sheet of paper inside. A printed screenshot of Anders' car parked next to hers at the rest stop. The timestamp in the corner was clear. The photo was black and white. Blurry, but unmistakable. I didn't sign it. I didn't attach a message. Let her wonder who sent it. Let her wonder how much I knew. By the time she got home that evening, she was distracted. Edgy. She forgot to take off her coat for almost 10 minutes after walking in. She kept glancing at her phone, checking behind herself when she moved from one room to the next, like she was expecting someone to jump out from the shadows. I didn't say a word. I just watched. After dinner, she asked if I wanted to watch a movie. Something light. A comedy. I said sure. She curled up next to me on the couch and laughed at all the right parts. But her hand was trembling slightly on her wine glass. And every time her phone buzzed, she flinched. I waited until she was in the shower to do the next thing. I took the old burner phone I'd picked up from a gas station 3 towns over, typed a number she didn't know, and sent a single message to her work phone. Does your husband know? I turned the burner off immediately and took the battery out. When she came back from the shower, wrapped in a towel and wearing that lazy, forced smile, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. She had no idea that her little tower was already swaying. And I hadn't even pushed yet. By Tuesday, the mood in the house had shifted from artificial peace to something heavier, like the feeling in a hotel hallway when 2 guests are arguing behind a closed door and everyone just keeps walking like they don't hear it. Maribel was moving slower now, checking over her shoulder more. She started keeping her phone face down even at home, and her new habit was locking it every time she left the room, even if she was just going to refill her water glass. She was slipping. I could see the tension tightening in her jaw, in her shoulders, in the way she chewed her thumbnail in the kitchen when she thought I wasn't watching. But the thing is, I didn't need to see her crumble all at once. I just needed to be there as she unraveled piece by piece. That afternoon, while she was still at work, I did something I hadn't planned on. I called Anders' office. I knew from my earlier search that he worked at a property development firm about an hour away, the kind of place that throws charity galas and takes out full-page ads in local magazines just to remind the town how community-focused they are. I called the front desk and asked for him. I gave a fake name, said I was following up on a potential land contract, and that we'd met at a conference in Nashville. The receptionist sounded confused. Oh, Eric's on leave. He's been out for the past week. Really? I said, trying to keep my voice light. Hope everything's okay. A pause. Then she lowered her voice slightly. Well, I don't really know. We heard HR got involved. Something about an inappropriate relationship. But that's just gossip. I thanked her and hung up. That was the first moment in this entire mess where I genuinely felt my stomach twist. Because I never planned for this to go beyond us. I wanted her to feel exposed. Yes, wanted the walls to close in around her just like they had around me. But I hadn't expected Anders to fall first. I hadn't expected the chain reaction to ripple outward. That night, Maribel was silent. She barely touched her dinner, kept glancing at the clock like it was counting down to something only she understood. At 10:41 p.m., her phone lit up on the kitchen counter. A message from a contact saved as J, but the preview showed enough. They called Miranda. You need to fix this before tomorrow. She lunged for the phone the moment she noticed the screen lit, like a drowning woman reaching for air. But I'd seen it, and she knew it. She didn't say a word about it, just turned her back and took the phone upstairs. I didn't follow. I didn't ask. Instead, I waited until she was asleep, then stepped outside with my burner phone. I texted Anders from a hidden number using a simple app. You should have kept your distance. Now it's her turn. I knew it would get under his skin. I knew it would make him spiral. I knew it would make him question her, pressure her, maybe even expose more of what she was hiding. But what I didn't expect came the next morning. She didn't go to work. She sat at the kitchen table for hours, phone in hand, not moving, not blinking, barely breathing. When I asked if everything was okay, she didn't lie this time. She just said, something's happening, and went quiet again. That's when I got the email. Sent to my personal inbox, the one I used for clock repair clients. No subject line, no signature, just a photo attachment. I opened it. It was a photo of me, taken from behind, sitting on a park bench 2 days earlier. Same coat, same hat, taken from maybe 30 feet away. And underneath it, a single sentence. Don't think you're the only one watching. I froze. That wasn't from her. And it wasn't from Anders either. Which meant something I hadn't considered was suddenly very real. Someone else knew. Someone I hadn't accounted for. Someone playing their own game. One I wasn't invited to, but was now trapped inside. And now, everything had changed. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of fear. Not anymore. The email, the photo, it should have terrified me. A month ago, it would have. But now, it felt like the final confirmation that I was no longer living in a marriage. I was living in a carefully constructed trap, one where every wall had been painted to resemble love, every smile rehearsed, every calendar entry, every excuse, every subtle shift in tone. I wasn't scared of who was watching me. I was free because I finally saw it. The next morning, I made her breakfast. Not out of kindness. Out of ritual. Toast. Soft-boiled eggs. Coffee. All her favorites. I laid it out neatly on the table. She came downstairs slowly, in that thick, silent fog she'd been wearing like perfume for the past week. Her eyes were swollen. Her lips tight. She saw the food, paused, and whispered, "Why?" I pulled out a chair and motioned for her to sit. She did. I sat across from her. And then, without rage, without venom, I simply said, "I know everything." She blinked, and I saw her body brace itself, like she was preparing for the shouting, the chaos, the storm. But I didn't give her that. I didn't need to. I was past the wreckage. I was standing on the other side. I know about Ridgecrest. I know about Anders. I know what you saved him under. I know about the fake meetings, the rest stop, the motel on our anniversary. I know about the lies to your mom, and your co-workers, and to me. She didn't speak, just nodded, slowly, like a guilty child being read a list of broken rules. I don't care about the why anymore, I continued. I used to. I wanted to believe there was a reason. That maybe I failed you in some way. But I know better now. You made your choices long before I saw them. You kept me here because I made this life comfortable. I was the soft rug beneath your sharp heels. I stood up and walked to the kitchen, opened the drawer, pulled out the envelope I'd prepared. Inside was a printed statement, signed, notarized, transferring the house to my name entirely. She had quietly removed her claim a week before. She thought she was planning an escape, probably with someone else. But while she was plotting in whispers, I was making peace in silence. I handed it to her. "I'm not asking you to leave," I said. "I'm just telling you I already did." Her lip trembled. For the first time, real tears formed in her eyes. Not crocodile tears. Not manipulation. Not guilt. Just sorrow. Regret. "Where will you go?" she asked quietly. "I already did," I repeated. "Emotionally, I left the night you looked happier with him than you've looked with me in years." She tried to speak again, but I shook my head. "No more words, Belle. You had 1,000 chances to speak, and I had 1,000 more to see it. We both failed, but I'm not going to rot here waiting for an apology you're not capable of giving." I walked to the door, grabbed my keys, and turned back once more. "I hope you find peace, but not through me." And with that, I left. I didn't go to a hotel. I didn't go to a friend's house. I went somewhere better. 3 hours outside town, past the lakes and into the woods. I had inherited my grandfather's cabin 2 years ago. Never told anyone. Just paid the taxes and kept it clean. I drove there with no suitcase, no plan, and no timeline. The air was crisp. The silence absolute. For the first time in years, no one was lying to me. For the first time in years, I could hear myself think. And when I woke the next morning, birdsong pouring through the trees, a warm cup of coffee in my hand, and the weight finally off my chest, I didn't feel broken. I felt alive. I didn't win. I didn't lose. I let go. And sometimes, that's more powerful than revenge will ever be.